I'm not upset about the things that are in my email box. I'm upset about the things that
Are
aren't.
not.
Yeah.
Or really the customer's not really saying I want to cancel because it's a hassle to cancel.
It's communication. It's getting back to zero and letting them complain and yell and scream so that you can see if there's a partnership there.
Some of our biggest customers, they'll call me 4 or 5 times a day. You want to have that relationship. If they're not talking to you, they're talking to someone else.
Complaints are bad things. They're not bad things. You know, it's an opportunity to train your staff. If you get a complaint, it's an opportunity to see the myths that we may be having with our employees, et cetera. But really, it's an opportunity to upsell. The trash was missed, the office is still not clean, soap and paper dispensers are not working. These are a few of the complaints that every commercial cleaner has heard or will hear during their time in the industry. In this episode of the OctoClean podcast, Greg and I are going to share strategies for resolving and avoiding complaints. We'll also discuss how to handle the dreaded request to cancel services. So, Greg, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I mean, just got stuff going on. Kids going to college.
Yeah.
You got one that just
I've already went. Yeah, mine's oldest is already gone.
So yeah, it's been.
Luckily, she's still living at home, so it's fine.
Well, mine's not. She's moving 7 hours away, so it's gonna
be a little frightening.
It's gonna be tough.
She's a smart kid. She'll be fine.
So today's topic about customer complaints. I've got some interesting questions for us to answer today.
It's a good topic.
It is. I mean, it's one of those things that. I see I hear over and over again from people like, oh, I got a complaint, it's the end of the world. And, complaints, as we'll discuss later, and they're really not the end of the world. I mean, this is a great opportunity to reset a conversation. Frankly, it's a great opportunity to upsell things because why do people usually complain? I mean, they complain because something's not getting done. I mean, out of 10 times that somebody complains, in your experience, how many of those times are things that were not in the scope in the first place?
Probably 6 to 7 times.
So
it's depending. Yeah, so over half of those times.
Yeah. So,
but it does also show that relationship. Like you're talking about, like complaints. But a lot of people have that "no news is good news" thing.
Yeah.
I'd rather have a customer, and some of our biggest customers they'll call me 4 or 5 times a day.
Yeah.
And what would be seen as a complaint, but you want to have that relationship. If they're not talking to you, they're talking to someone else.
Well, exactly. And the no news is good news. I mean, I'll tell you, that is one of the worst things that I mean, for us, when the phones aren't ringing, emails aren't coming through, I worry.
Yeah.
And I'm like, go find some things. Like, go find something that somebody can complain about. And then that seems counterintuitive, right, in business. Like, well, I don't want complaints, so I work harder, do all that. And we're going to talk a little bit about that too.
Yeah.
But in reality, complaints are communication. Communication means relationship. Relationship means long-term contract success.
And that means they're working with you. Like, it's a complaint, but they have that feeling that, if Matt's cleaning the building, someone comes to them and says, one of their staff members says, hey, this didn't get done, that didn't get done. They'll have that feeling, well, let me call Matt and he's going to take care of it.
Yeah.
He'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. It's, the opposite is like, yeah, and they just give up.
Yeah.
That's what you have to be worried about. So complaints are not always a bad thing. And honestly, I don't really see them as, that gives us the opportunity to look deeper.
Yeah.
In our business model, probably a lot different than the people that are running it themselves. But it does give us the opportunity to be like, what's going on? Well, where can we go with this relationship?
Yeah. So if all of us would look at, silence is resignation, right? That this is as good as it's going to get. If we started to define silence that way, we would be way better at customer service. We would be way better at retaining customers versus, panic. We got a complaint. Oh, the sky is falling. It's like, that's not what's going on. But our first question today is, and so we have to go PG. You can go PG-13, no more than that. We've been given instructions. We have lots of years of experience around the worst complaint.
And people too.
That we've ever, and you could say customers, but what would you say is a story of a really weird, gnarly, bad complaint?
Well, we were cleaning a place that fixes Caterpillar like engines and things like that. And it was a dirty place to begin with, of course, as mechanics, which, it's part of the job. And they had a bathroom stall. And I was young at the time, probably 20 something. And they had a bathroom stall that said out of order for me. I was like, well, it's out of order. Well, then at the time, it was my dad was my boss. And he's like, hey, that bathroom stall needs to be cleaned. I got a complaint. And they said it hasn't been cleaned. And I was like, all right, not a problem. So I had to literally crawl underneath the stall. And when I got underneath the stall, someone had used number 2 in the stall probably a month ago. And there was a plant that was probably like that tall, like a full-on plant growing out of it. So I get on the phone. I'm like, dude, I'm not cleaning it. And that was probably the grossest thing that I've ever had to do.
So whatever he ate had seeds in it. That's what I'm hearing.
To this day, I mean, I'm almost 50 now, and it still haunts me.
Was it like
I will never crawl underneath a bathroom stall again.
Was it a fruit-bearing plant?
It had a flower.
It had a flower.
It had a flower. So
sunflower seeds. It could have been. Was it a sunflower?
It was gross.
It was.
It was so gross, like vomit in your mouth, gross. So and I was like, no, and then like just flush it, and I was like, no. This is before cell phone cameras, so there's no picture.
Yeah,
but yeah,
that would have been. I don't think we would have put that up on socials, but that would go around in the intranet type thing here at our office, because that would have been something else. But I think one of the weirdest, I wouldn't say the weirdest, but just one of the most unreasonable complaints that I ever got was someone called in and then said, hey, you guys aren't cleaning my desk because I'm finding mice droppings or rat droppings on my desk. And, it wasn't here when I left last night. And so we go down there, we're talking to it was somebody in an administrative office of a car dealership. And, she's like, you guys do a terrible job. You don't clean my desk. I have mouse poop all over the place. And, and I'm like, okay, so we did clean your desk. And, but let me ask you, I mean, when do mice and rats and all of the, like, rodents, when do they come out? Well, I when people, are not around and it's dark out, at night, like that's, they're nocturnal.
Answered your own question.
And I'm like, okay, so we leave at 2:00 in the morning and, we just, I guess the rats don't come out anymore. She's like, that's not what it is. And so she was insistent that this rat only comes out between the hours that she leaves and we come in.
Maybe it's on a schedule.
It's on a schedule.
It's like it clocks it on its phone. Be like, I'm clocking in.
So this went on for 3 or 4 business days until we finally,
like the phone calls. Like her calling you, like,
you're still not cleaning my desk. You're still not cleaning my desk. And so we ended up having to go to the general manager and we're like, look, dude, I mean, can we kind of rein this person in, because, this is what's going on. Well, come to find out, like, the general manager comes back and he's like, yeah, that individual eats at her desk. If you open up her drawer, she's got like 25 bags of chips and candy and all kinds of stuff. And she's like, the only person in this building that has that has rats,
basically Costco,
is her desk. So yeah, I mean, I think it was a pet personally, but no, that was I just couldn't get over it because I just wanted to strangle this person. But but these are the things that happen, right? I mean, these are the crazy complaints. But commonly we're getting complaints like the dispensers that weren't filled, or
missed a trash can,
didn't sweep behind the door, or didn't vacuum my office. The batteries ran out in a dispenser. The cobweb in the corner hasn't been taken down in a month.
Yeah.
I mean, these are pretty common complaints.
You got some smells, things like stuff like that.
Right.
Common. But I want to say common, but
well, and even looking at something, so we talk about common complaints, but then, it's looking at what are the things about complaints. We already talked about the misconceptions is that complaints are bad things. They're not bad things. It's an opportunity to train your staff. If you get a complaint, it's an opportunity to see the myths that we may be having with our employees, et cetera. But really, it's an opportunity to upsell.
And really, for us, it's in like an executive type, managerial type of setting. It's kind of like a doctor. You go to the doctor and say, this is what's going on. This is how I feel.
A symptom.
And it's a symptom. And him sitting back like, oh, I've seen this before. I've seen this in another patient before. This is what I should give you. And we do the same thing here. If I have someone that's consistently missing soap or toilet paper or paper towels, it's a symptom of something else. Like, is somebody new in there? Is there no training in there? Did something happen that night? Yep. Same thing for like security concerns when we get those, because that's kind of major for us. Usually a door unlocked or alarm not set. For us sitting in an office, where maybe not everybody can see that, we can do a red flag like, hey, there's something going on, call that person.
Yeah.
Call that person about what's going on. So for us, complaints are symptoms, and a lot of times we'll get on that phone and say, what's going on? Why are they saying their carpet's not clean or not vacuumed? And like, well, let me send you a picture. And then we get the picture and be like, oh, that's not just vacuum. That needs to have, we need to have a car company come in and extract it or whatever it is. So it is that bit of, hey, we need to see every complaint is honestly good.
Yeah.
I'm the same as you. If I see nothing, and we have analytics that run complaints, so I can see and punch up and be like, okay, where am I at this building? And it's like, well, they had 5 complaints last month, and then now we're 3 months later, and they haven't complained at all. Not a word, not a peep.
Send somebody out.
We'll send somebody out, and typically what happens is we'll meet with a person, and they'll say, well, I started to meet with Susie, your cleaner, at night, and she says that when I complain that, I get in trouble and I don't want to get fired. So I just stop complaining and I just tell her.
Yep.
But it's really getting bad. And like what you always say is like, this customer's collecting tickets.
Yeah.
And then you go in and she drops them all on the desk and be like, this is everything I've ever told Susie.
Yep. And it's a common thing that, relationship-based resignation occurs, right? Like where you have these complaints come in, open, transparent communication turns into poor me, take care of me, help me, save me. And that does turn into that. And that's where things we're going to get a little bit later. We're going to talk about, cancellations and alternative resolutions, et cetera. But something you talked about here a moment ago was having a process for the types of tickets that we have. And so I wanted you to, chat a little bit about that as well, about, what are the types of complaints that we've created different categories. And along with that, we can chat together about, what are the steps, the processes that we go through when those types of complaints come in at a high level, so that we know that we're dealing with the symptom quickly. So first off would be, what kind of systems would you recommend that, a new business owner would need to have? And then what type of ticket types would you want to create?
So without sharing everything that we do to everyone, I think first you need to sit with your management staff, and if it's just you or whatever, and decide what complaints you would say are major and what complaints are minor.
Yep.
For us, when we look at major complaints, we look at like security concerns, of course, theft.
Yeah.
Employees not in uniform, things like that show like, hey, it's going to become a problem. And so in that realm is where our majors at. And you can go further for majors if you want. You could do X amount of complaints in a week or anything like that. There's a lot you can do, but really it's for you guys to decide in your company what you find is, hey, I've got to get there now.
And I think with that, with the major and the minors, as we get into it, it's, work backwards. What would require me to go to the customer's building right now?
Get up out of your chair.
Yeah. What would require me to go to the building at night and make sure that my staff are handling everything they're supposed to handle? If it requires you to get out of your chair now and go now, it requires...
Or even pick up the phone. If you have that relationship
and
you're like, hey, I've got to pick up the phone. Maybe your customer's in another state. We deal with that a lot.
Yeah.
Large accounts or the site managers in a different state. If you have to pick up your phone, or if you have to get out of your desk and go somewhere, or even go to your customer service manager, or if you are the customer service manager, say, this is what needs to happen. This is exactly how I want this done.
Yeah.
That's a major complaint.
Yep.
And then you can define that.
So similarly then, so if we're looking at a minor complaint, then it's which is how we break it up, is major, minor.
Yes.
And then we have, more communication related things, okay, which would be reports. So a minor complaint, it would be an open and closed case, right? Paper towel wasn't filled, we filled the paper towel. That being said, a minor complaint that is repetitive.
Yeah.
Do you want to speak on that? So if you have the same thing happen again and again.
Like over and over and over again, that can go into a major. That doesn't mean you maybe need to be there now, but you may have to go there at night, retrain the crew, figure out what's going on, and just see, why do you keep missing this one trash can, or why do you keep not filling the toilet paper roll dispenser or the towel dispenser? And a lot of times you find, oh, it's the roll dispenser's broken, and I didn't know who to tell, or I wasn't trained on how to fix that, or I don't have a key, which to us it's minor. It's like, well, here's a key.
Yeah.
But to a customer, their thought, and I always go back to this when training new people, is everybody walks into my training rooms thinking, I know how to clean. What am I here for? I already know how to clean. My mom made me clean. If I didn't clean my room, I couldn't play my Xbox.
Right.
So they automatically know that. And so your customer thinks that too. And they have that attitude where it's like, how easy is it, dude? How easy? Come on. It's the easiest thing in the world to put soap in a soap dispenser.
Yep.
And I always tell people, well, anyone can do it one night. It's the 357th night of doing the soap dispenser. Oops, I missed it. And that's a minor. But if they miss it every single night, you may have an employee issue, you have a training issue, you may have a key. There's so much more.
Well, and I'm going to go to another level of that, is that if your employees are not communicating with you about simple things related, like I don't have a key, I don't have this, I don't have that, that's a you problem.
Yeah.
Okay, because no, they're not always, because
you might have a wrong employee, but it's still a you problem.
But the expectation, so every employee, every person in the world has some level of contamination, right? And I say that and it's like fear, anxiety around how they deal with authority. So if that's the case, if we just live in that space, if that's true, then you have an employee who doesn't come to you and say, hey, this dispenser doesn't work, because they're in fear that if they bother you, you're going to get upset, because somewhere in their past, they told somebody something, or a bunch of somebody something, and they got in trouble because they're like, don't be stupid, just go and fix it.
Yeah.
Right. And so instead, if you see something like that, it's building the culture around like, hey, if you communicate with us, this doesn't become a complaint. This doesn't become a complaint. It's because you solved the problem.
Yeah.
Right. That's a positive. So it's not why didn't you just fix the dispenser? And I think you also have to be careful not to react to a customer or to an employee who didn't tell you for days, when they say, I was afraid to talk to you because I know how busy you are. Because so much of complaints is about, you're only as good as your weakest link at a building, right? So if you have a bad employee, then right away and you get rid of them. But if you have a scared employee, it's up to you to change that. And that's where you can fix the complaint issue and the repetitive type of things that are happening that we're just like, duh, you should have done that. But that doesn't mean everybody got brought up in the same way that the people, that we did, and we didn't get brought up in that, it was, do whatever I'm going to get you. But totally different story. But yeah, I think that's a lot like Matt's saying, is some of these employees you're going to come from like that same mentality of, what are you, just dumb? Yeah.
Do you just not know what you're going to do? And you're like, well, and so they think the same thing. Well, I should be able to fix this, and I can't fix this, so I'm just going to be quiet, and it's going to be someone else's problem later.
Amen. And that's exactly what I see. I see that way too often. And it's something that, we've talked a lot about orientation and training and working with employees and, in our YouTube channel on different videos. And we'll continue to say it. I mean, it's a culture, it's making sure that we don't put ourselves in a position where employees are going to think that you're the bad guy, that you're in fear. But anyway,
and that's another thing that if we're talking about like customer success and that correlation between happy customers and then happy employees that are doing the work, that fear of them going to their boss it's huge for them. So we always put things around that, because everybody has different personality types. I have people that they're not afraid of nothing. Then I have other people that do a really good job, but they don't want to really speak out. So we'll have an open communication where they can talk to us electronically and everybody sees it and saying, hey, I need a new feather duster. Or I don't have a key. Here's a picture of the dispenser. So if you make it easy for everyone, that always goes back to your customer being like, okay, well, that's great.
Well, and speaking of that,
they're not complaining.
To close this one out is, we even track as a ticket type communication between franchise. So franchise communication to us or to the customer, employee communication to the customer. Because if we don't see those tickets popping up, that there's good communication from the cleaning side to the customer, the cleaning side to the office, then we see a symptom to a problem. Even if it is considered a perfect building, which there is no such thing. we want to look at and say, why aren't you communicating little things?
Back and forth.
Yeah, back and forth. Because if you're not, there's always something. So anyway, no matter what we do, there's going to come a time where, a customer is going to cancel. And I think some of the reasons that we see is that, somebody talked to somebody at the building, the janitor of the building. They said, don't talk to the office. That turns into something. They start ticket collecting, and they say, we're going to cancel unless you fix it. But when you do get this threat of cancellation, what have you done? What have we done in the past that would be considered an alternative resolution to that change, to change the mind of the customer?
Well, I think originally when you get the threat of cancellation, it's kind of like, we always go back to psychology, right? When you're a kid, and we always talk about parent and child. When you have a parent that's really upset, the first thing they're going to be like, if you ever do that again, I'm going to blah, 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 blah. And sometimes that's all it is with the customer. They call you up, they're screaming, they want to be heard, right? Mm-hmm. Do it, stop it. Of course, you have to send someone out there that understands that psychology. Like, I've got to get them from there to somewhere where, like, okay, let's talk about it. And a lot of times that's all it takes. Now, is that somebody that's readily available, that's easy to find? Honestly, no.
No, it's not.
I think that's very hard to find somebody. A lot of times you'll get somebody to get face-to-face with this customer, and yes, ma'am, yeah, I get it, I understand, and then they walk out and they're like, okay, they canceled. And, well, they were going to cancel anyway.
Yeah.
Where really the customer's not really saying, I want to cancel, because it's a hassle to cancel. You got to do bids, you got to do all this other stuff, you got to get their insurance, you got to change the keys, you got to change the codes. It costs money for them. They don't want to cancel.
Yeah.
What they want to do is they want their building clean. So resolutions, like you're saying, there's options where you're like, let's say you get to that point, because first you got to get them out of that screaming at you stage, and I want to get out of here, and you guys are the worst in the world. Then you're like, okay, these are your options.
Right.
You can do A, B, or C. We can get you a new crew. We can, would you be willing to let us retrain who's in there? And then let's constantly talk about what's going on. But it all goes back to the relationship of the person that's talking.
Yeah.
No matter what you do, if they don't trust you as the representative, they don't care.
Well, and if they're inviting you in because they're upset, and they say, if you don't, this is what it sounds like. If you don't X, we're going to cancel, right? I always go back to remember why they hired you in the first place, because they had a list of pain points, and chances are that they are calling you in because the communication somewhere along the line was between the janitor and the customer.
Yeah.
And they're like, help me, save me, whatever that is. So it is all the things you said. It's communication. It's getting back to zero and letting them complain and yell and scream so that you can see if there's a partnership there. And, I've been faced with, we both have, where we go in and talk to a customer that's upset, and we get to the end of that conversation, and there's no way we can get back from there. The conditions that they put in place, if you don't, then we're going to cancel. Yeah. And if you don't, could be, if you don't give me a credit, if you don't give me this, or you don't give me that, if you don't give me the world, then we're going to cancel. And I'm like, just tell me where to drop the keys.
A bunch of free stuff. And then even after you give them free stuff, they're still going to have that same attitude. And the likelihood is they're going to cancel anyway after they get all their free stuff.
Right. So speaking of that, in the event that you do have a cancellation, because you're going to have them. I mean, no one's perfect.
And we got budget restraints. There's a bunch of different reasons. They move out of state.
Right.
I mean,
or you just do crappy work.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to learn until you lose a customer. It's in every interaction there's a winner and a loser, unless you listen to my video about sales, and then there's a win-win situation. But
sales is a win-win.
Well, it should be if you're a good salesperson. But in the event of those cancellations, what do we do people need to put in place to protect themselves against cancellations? Things like a 30-day notice, right? I mean, you should put something in that says, hey, you have to give us 30 days notice so that we're able to board an employee professionally, pay them, all of those types of things. But I think the big one that most people who are just starting out don't do well is that you work off of a verbal contract.
Yeah, can't do that.
And I'm like, dude, you cannot, like, oh, there's a handshake and my handshake is worth, it's gold or whatever. I'm like, no, it's not.
My word is oak.
Well, I had a guy, actually, a quick story. local guy who is very successful now franchisor, but I walk into his office, I sit down, with him, we go over the numbers, and he's like, we're going to go with you. And he was a Greek guy, really, like old school, business guy. He's like, but I don't sign contracts. I only shake hands. We worked, so he eventually did sign it, because I'm like, well, we don't work without contracts, so you have to sign something. But it still is a reality, and if you don't have the fortitude to say no, we're not going to do it unless you sign a piece of paper, then
And the customers know that. I mean, you go take your car in, you got to sign for it. Everything you do in this world, you have to sign saying something. I'm going to give you this, and you're going to sign here for what I give you.
Yeah. I'm going to say a couple things on this, and then we'll move on. But what you want to avoid when you're drafting contracts is there are a couple of janitorial companies. I'm not going to name names, but they've created a contract that has a remedy clause in it.
Like the impossible clause, basically.
It's basically an impossible clause.
Unless you catch it on the right day.
Yeah. Do not write a contract that is impossible for someone who's upset with you to get out of. Like, just don't do it, right? Because that is a reputation, destroyer.
And they will talk to everybody they know, like the laundry lady, the person at the grocery store, every business group they're in, about never go with these people.
Never work with this company and this company and this company, because the contract is impossible to get out of. So it should be simple. 30-day notice on either side due to, poor service, whatever it may be. Do not overcomplicate your contracts. Okay. If you start doing things like, oh, well, if I put a 15-day remedy clause in and I have to go back in and it's completed within a reasonable amount of quality and cleaning, et cetera, then I can keep it for another 30 days and I can do it again and again and again.
And the same thing for scope of work in your contracts. Don't have, like, you go to these restaurants that have a book like this, same thing for janitorial companies. Your scope of work should be clear, simple, concise.
Yeah.
And that's it. You don't have to have, every 2 weeks I clean underneath the sink and get the water stain off the bottom of the pipe.
Right. I agree.
So
great question. I mean, we want to be proactive, and proactive behavior is essential in reducing the number of complaints. But as we said, reduction of complaints doesn't mean just let them be resigned. They can't find anybody to do it as cheap as us, et cetera. But how do you avoid or limit the amount of complaints and cancellations that you receive? What are the proactive things that people should be doing?
Well, every time it goes to that, I always go to training your people. You got to have a standardized way you clean throughout. That's where it all starts from. And why I say that is because if you don't have a standardized way to clean throughout, you cannot go into the next step where you're quality assurance. Because everybody's going to be like, well, I clean this way. Or you'll watch somebody in a bathroom, and let's say you got a complaint, and I'm here looking at your bathroom because you keep missing toilet paper. And then I'm sitting there like, oh, well, he missed the toilet paper. Oh, I get that last. I'm like, no, you don't. You're supposed to get that first, and then da-da-da-da-da. Yeah. So just like putting an engine back together, or you go to IKEA and you put furniture together, you got to put it together in the right way, or else you're not.
There's just step
the desk
one,
is going to fall down.
Yeah, step one through whatever.
So believe it or not, that's how analytical we are when it comes to training. Yeah. That I can stand back and not say a word. I don't need to speak whatever language, Greek, to go in and QA somebody, because I'm watching. And it's going to tell me. That's giving me that symptom saying, okay, this is the problem. That's what our quality assurance comes into play. Right. Is they're watching that, because really it is, I can go give you a list and you're going to go clean up the list, but that's not going to fix your problem.
No.
Your problem is your people aren't in any type of system. They're cleaning however they want, and you're solely, as the business owner, the franchise owner, dependent on that person. If that person leaves and they're doing a great job, well, now you're struggling because you don't know what they were doing.
Exactly.
And you're either going to lose the business, or they're going to come to you and be like, well, I want $25 an hour.
Yeah.
And you're like, what do I do?
Well, you got to plug them into a system that already exists. And then you mentioned QA, and I always, people look at, well, what is quality assurance? Well, quality assurance is just somebody going around pointing fingers like, that's dusty, that doesn't get, clean this, clean that. That's not quality assurance within a system of training, right? A quality assurance within a system of training is, I recognize, an issue with this. I mean, like you said, let's look at it. is there a deviation in your process? You know, is your tool broken? You have the right chemical? Whatever that is.
Yeah. Do you not have a training card? Do you not? What do
yeah.
you got? And I get that people are like, well, yeah, it's cards and all, like you're saying, all this stuff. Yeah, but the employee's not going to watch. They're not going to listen to it.
Yeah.
Then find a way to talk to your employee to the where they realize, like, hey, this is how we do it,
And there's a benefit.
and they go faster and they don't have to think.
All right, it's that time again, Greg.
It's my favorite time.
We're going into this or that, and I will admit that I did read a couple of these.
There's one that I don't know if he's gonna. I know what he's gonna answer, but
No, that's good. I got this. All right, so you ready?
here we go. Would you rather be the clown who distracts a bull or the cowboy who rides the bull?
Dude, I want the belt buckle, dude. I'm going to be on the bull because, look, when your ride is over, it's done. Like if you're with this clown rolling around,
See, I spent some time on the East Coast,
you got to be out there all day, man.
and they do the bull riding thing like it's a hobby. You know, it's like dirt bike riding in California or whatever. That's like their hobby,
Yeah.
and those bulls are terrifying. I would rather not be either one,
I would rather not be either one, but you didn't give me that choice.
but I probably would be the bull rider too, because I don't think I can run
Come
fast.
on, man.
as
We
that
got to get you got to get the belt buckle. You got to get the belt buckle.
I'm not getting the belt buckle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get on there and like they ring the thing and open the gate and I'm going to fall.
It's going to fall off. As long as you don't get
That little fall and can't get up button.
yeah, don't get trampled.
Have the paramedics come get me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
All right. At least we both agreed on that one. That's good.
Would you rather be insulted by Gordon Ramsay for 10 seconds or receive unlimited text messages from Donald Trump for 10 days?
That's an easy one. That's a really easy one. I mean, as much as Gordon Ramsay is crazy,
I love Gordon Ramsay.
I love the dude, and I would be honored to be yelled at by Gordon Ramsay.
I would like to see the text messages from Donald Trump, though.
I would not
It would be hilarious.
at all. But Gordon Ramsay,
I'd rather do Gordon Ramsay because at least I get to meet Gordon Ramsay.
well, because you're going to get yelled at and insulted, probably cooking macaroni and cheese and hot dogs.
Well, maybe where there's a restaurant, then he'll let you eat at his restaurant after he's done insulting you.
Because I don't think he's that bad of a guy.
No, he's actually not. We'll talk other.
Besides, he's never changed a diaper in his life, is what I hear. But you can look that up
A
online.
lot of wealthy people have it.
Yeah.
Would you rather have a customer who always complains or a customer that never responds? We kind of went over that already, though.
I would rather have a customer that always
complains.
complains. Yeah.
We have one of those.
Yeah, I would rather have one that always complains because never responds. I've been saying this for the last couple of weeks. I'm not upset about the things that are in my email box. I'm upset about the things that
Are
aren't.
not, yeah.
Those are and so it's about like waiting for someone to respond. It drives me crazy. Like I just want to know what's going on. So
That's when you need to get back out there. Like, this guy's not responding. I need to find more than this in my business.
Yes.
So, flat mops or loop mops to mop non-operating room floors. So like common spaces.
I'm a loop mop guy.
I am too.
And
There's science behind of why we're loop mop people. But
I'm all about loop mops. I don't want
flat mops don't clean.
flat mops are fun and all. People are like, oh yeah, and companies like Rubbermaid come out and they like, oh, look at all these flat mops and look at all this stuff we can do, and this is what the efficacy is. There are so many things that you can use it for, but in most cases, it's just an excuse to be lazy. Because people aren't going to change the mops in like the 400 square feet.
No, not at all.
They're just not going to do it.
Would you rather break your cell phone or break a leg?
Oh, you can break my cell phone.
I'd break my cell phone like 3 times over.
all day.
But if you ask like my children, they probably be like, "Can you break my leg?"
I'm not young anymore, brother. I mean, like, if I break my leg, that shit may never.
Yeah, you're gonna be like Tiger Woods. On this one.
Just saying.
So, I think that's all we have for this podcast. This or that.
Yep, on the this or that. Yeah, we'll get in. So I want to.
And now we're into questions.
Yeah,
right.
I want to have some questions here, and then we'll go into. We'll finish up with these questions. So number one, so from Mike Marin.
It's Mike
Marino
drummer.
Mike Marino drummer asks, what do you suggest when a customer insists that they buy their own supplies that they like? I've agreed because I felt managing supply orders was a headache for us, but now there's an inconsistency in product type between my accounts. Also, do you charge an upfront fee for buying supplies to cover costs? I find sometimes on a smaller account, it doesn't make sense to spend a bunch of supplies up front.
So he's not really defining what supplies. I mean, the first sentence is it
I would say
cleaning product?
I would say chemical. Let's just assume
That's what
it's chemical.
it kind of seems like. Well, all of our contracts say that we can provide cleaning product, right?
Well, he's saying that they insist.
So if they
So what do you
insist,
do?
there had to be a reason for them to insist. And then we do have customers that have like specialty type buildings where you have like they're making electronics that they have to have their own chemicals. That's fine. We just use their stuff.
Yeah.
You know, we just work that into our process.
But it has to have an SDS.
Yeah, it has to have an SDS, and that liability, if you're leaving it in the building, falls on the customer.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. But at the same time, you're saying for some smaller accounts, that's when it comes into like, are we talking paper products? We hate including paper product in contracts.
Yeah, we do. I would say, this sounds to me like a customer said, I want you to use Pledge, I want you to use Fabuloso, I want you to use this. use
Windex,
that.
whatever, use this.
And then there's no consistency of employees moving from building to building. I mean, what I would say is, it's a sale within a sale. The customer insisting that something has to be done, is that they insist? Or is that you didn't have some other way of having a conversation about what better chemical is out there, using SDS, having that there, limiting liability of, potential, poison, someone, et cetera. Like, have you done the work to get them out of the insistent, like, you have to use my product? So I would always go in with like, okay, well, here's the products that we do use compared to this product, this product, this product. Here's the efficacy of this product you want versus the one that I'm recommending, this and this and this and this. And then, it is, then you don't have to worry about it because.
And a lot of times when sorry to interrupt, but I get the opportunity to come in at the end. So a salesman sells it, then I'm walking in with whoever's going to clean it operationally, and I'll get that conversation.
Yeah.
Oh, well, just use this stuff. I already buy it for you. Just go ahead and use that. And a lot of times I'll be telling, well, okay, well, this is what we use. This is the SDS. Here you go. And, we have to have this on file. Is it okay if we just use our stuff? Well, absolutely. You're going to buy your own stuff? I just thought I had to buy your stuff.
Yeah.
Because of my last company, it's always my last company said, hey, buy me a vacuum, buy me this, buy me that, buy me a broom. That's not who we are.
Well, and some of this too, the key word here is smaller account, right? That if it's a smaller account, it's chances are whoever was there before was cleaning houses too.
Or was the employees cleaning it
Or
themselves.
the employees. So, it's just recognizing what's happening. And if you're looking for consistency over saving a few bucks on product, it's way more important to be consistent in training. So, all right.
Thanks, Mike, for the question.
Thank you, Mike. Our last question from Ala Redding, 1350. Thank you for being a fan here. Always helpful and informative videos. Thank you. Question. I'm currently working with Waxy and looking at purchasing their chemicals for my cleaning business after watching so many of your videos. How do I know if I'm getting a fair price from them? They basically told me I could negotiate pricing, but I have no idea what's fair. How do I learn this? I've got a few thoughts on this.
I can bring my Waxy rep in and tell you that. But, Matt, why don't you give us your thoughts?
Well, number one, they basically told you that you could negotiate pricing. All right, so you're talking to a representative. If you're talking to someone who is selling you product, you need to understand their business first. Their highest percentage on product is chemical.
Yep.
Right.
So that means the margin. The most money they make
margin is there.
It's not paper product.
Chemical.
It's chemical.
So they have the ability to negotiate more on chemical than they can on a roll of toilet paper because that's a commodity product. Chemical is not the case, right? And as much as they're ordering from whoever it is that's making their products, I think it's probably Gen Labs, they're getting really, really good prices. And so they're making 50 margin, 70 margin, whatever it is. So your job as somebody who's buying the product is they don't know you, right? That salesperson doesn't know you. And so you have to be able to tell them what your usage is likely going to be so that you can get deviated costs. And so as many years as we've both been doing this, and I've sat across the table from people to negotiate prices, it's always been, look, we expect that we're going to use 28 cases in a month, 80 cases, 100 cases, whatever. But if you just go in and like, I think I'm going to get like a case every 3 months, you're going to be paying the highest margin.
Expect to pay the highest margin.
Right? So if if you say I expect to make, sell or buy 10 cases of this and 10 cases of that, even if you're like, I'd probably be like 2,
Tell them 10.
then tell them 10 and get deviated costs, because they're already making enough money on this product. Okay. And never go to the counter and buy
don't
a product.
just walk in.
Never go in and buy from the counter, because they're going to charge you shelf price, list price. I mean, that's not, you don't want that. Get a rep, bring them into your office, go to their office, negotiate
Starbucks, something.
pricing, negotiate. Never take the first price.
No.
Never. That's what I would say.
And you can ask others. I mean, that's something else you could do if you found someone else that's using the product. Say, how much are you paying for it? At least that's going to give you a roundabout dollar amount.
Right.
If you don't know that, you start searching it online. You can buy Solstice products from other companies that they're buying it and reselling it. I've seen that too.
Good.
And that can give you a roundabout way. Like, look, I could buy it from them. And I mean, let's just put it out there. Waxy's a great company. We like them. We've been in a relationship with them for 30 years. They're not the only company that makes dilution control.
They aren't. And I was gonna say the same. I think where you're headed is, if you want to negotiate pricing with Waxy, you better get another price from somebody else.
Yeah.
And so it's go to a competitor of Waxy and say, this is what they're pricing me out at. Can you get me similar products with dilution control and give me a better price? And then just bring it back to Waxy if that's what you want, and they'll give you better pricing, because there's so much margin.
There is.
There's so much margin. So anyway, I think this is a good one today. So
it was.
I'm excited about how people take this one in, because I think there's a lot of good information about complaints, and like how, we were telling some of our stories. I might have used a 4-letter word in this one. I apologize if anybody got upset about that, but it happens. So we want to thank everyone for watching or listening to this episode of the OctoClean podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment with the topics that you want to discuss next time. If you're listening, don't forget to rate and review the podcast. And, well, I think we're going to see you next time.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for watching.